Dr. Elena Santos stood at the edge of the excavation site, her eyes fixed on the metallic gleam that had first caught her attention 3 weeks ago. The Atacama Desert's harsh sun beat down on the dig site, but she barely noticed the heat anymore. What they'd found buried beneath centuries of sand and rock defied everything she thought she knew about human history. "Dr. Santos," her assistant James called out from the communication tent. "The carbon dating results are back from the lab." Elena made her way across the site, careful not to disturb any of the carefully mapped grids. The massive shape they'd uncovered stretched nearly 200 meters in length. It told smooth despite millennia of burial. The material itself had puzzled every material scientist they'd brought in. It wasn't any alloy known to modern metallurgy. Inside the tent, James handed her the tablet with trembling hands. "They ran the tests 3 times to be sure," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Elena's eyes widened as she read the results. 35,000 years, she breathed. "This predates every known human civilization by tens of thousands of years." She looked up at the holographic survey floating above the main table, showing the complete scan of what they'd found. The shape was unmistakable. A vessel designed for flight, but not like anything in modern aerospace engineering. The discovery had remained secret for now, thanks to the remote location and their private funding, but Elena knew that wouldn't last. Already, unusual energy readings were emanating from deeper within the vessel, readings that had started the moment they'd uncovered the main hull. "Dr. Santos," called out Dr. Chen, their physicist. "You need to see this." His voice carried an urgency that made Elena hurry to the excavation's eastern edge. As she approached, she saw what had caught his attention. A section of the hull had begun to glow with a soft, blue-white light. "It's responding to our presence," Dr. Chen explained, holding up his instruments. "The energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases. This isn't just ancient technology, it's active technology." Elena approached the glowing section carefully. As she drew closer, patterns began to emerge within the light, symbols that seemed to shift and change, yet somehow felt familiar. "It's trying to communicate," she realized. Before anyone could respond, a holographic display burst from the hull's surface, filling the air above them with 3-dimensional star charts. But these weren't the stars as they appeared now. This was the sky as it had looked 35,000 years ago. "My God," James whispered. They weren't just advanced, they were spacefaring. Elena watched as the star charts shifted, showing what appeared to be trade routes and navigation paths between solar systems. "Not just spacefaring," she corrected. "They were part of something bigger, something interstellar." The implications hit her like a physical force. Humanity hadn't achieved its first stumbling steps into space alone. They were heirs to a legacy they'd forgotten, walking in the footsteps of their own ancestors who had already reached for the stars millennia ago. As if responding to their realization, new sections of the vessel began to activate. Panels shifted, revealing entrances that had been seamlessly hidden. The ship wasn't just a relic, it was awakening. "Get me the UN Security Council," Elena instructed James, her eyes never leaving the unfolding marvel before them. "And contact the Global Space Initiative. Tell them." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Tell them we'd found proof that humanity's future in the stars has deeper roots than we ever imagined." Within hours, the site was swarming with officials and experts from every major spacefaring nation. The vessel, now dubbed Legacy by Elena's team, continued its gradual awakening, each new system that activated challenging their understanding of physics and engineering. But it was what they found in the ship's data cores that truly changed everything. Earth wasn't just home to an ancient spacefaring civilization. It had been part of a vast network of intelligent species spread across thousands of light years. And somewhere out there, their descendants were still among the stars. As Elena watched military officials and scientists argue about jurisdiction and research priorities, she noticed something in the holographic displays that no one else had yet spotted. A warning. The ancient civilization hadn't just buried this ship for preservation. They'd left it as a safeguard, a weapon of last resort against something they'd encountered in deep space. Humanity hadn't just discovered its past. They'd uncovered their role in a conflict they never knew existed. And somewhere out in the darkness between the stars, that ancient enemy was still waiting. 6 months after the discovery of the legacy, the Atacama site had transformed into a sprawling research complex. The desert night was illuminated by powerful floodlights as teams worked around the clock, trying to unlock the vessel's secrets. Dr. Elena Santos watched from the newly constructed control center as another test sequence initiated. The integration chamber below hummed with energy as engineers attempted to interface modern quantum computers with the legacy's crystalline data cores. Previous attempts had ended in failure. The ancient technology operated on principles that seemed to defy modern physics. But tonight was different. Power levels holding steady, reported Dr. Yuki Tanaka, their systems integration specialist. The quantum field is synchronizing with the crystal lattice structure. Her fingers danced across holographic controls, making minute adjustments. Elena leaned forward, holding her breath. They'd discovered that the legacy's systems didn't just process information. They manipulated the fundamental fabric of space-time to perform computations. It was like trying to connect an abacus to a quantum supercomputer, except the abacus operated in 11 dimensions. The displays suddenly flared with activity as data began flowing between the systems. "We're in," Yuki announced, her voice tight with concentration. The translation matrices are holding. Images and text began flooding their screens. Star charts, technical specifications, historical records. But it was more than just data. The legacy's systems were adaptive, learning and evolving as they interfaced with modern technology. It wasn't just accepting their connection. It was teaching them how to think differently about technology itself. Dr. Santos called out Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Chen, the military liaison assigned to the project. "We're picking up something new. The ship's defensive systems are coming online." Elena rushed to her station. The legacy's hull was transforming, nanoscale structures rearranging themselves into configurations that their sensors struggled to analyze. "It's not just activating," she realized. "It's adapting to protect against modern weapons systems. It's learning about from our databases." "Incredible," Sarah breathed. "It's like it's evolving in real time, developing countermeasures to threats it never encountered during its original operation." But their breakthrough had consequences beyond Earth. High above the planet, automated monitoring stations began detecting unusual signals, responses to the legacy's activation. Something out there had noticed. The first contact came 3 days later. A ship of clearly alien origin emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. Its design was sleek, advanced, and somehow familiar to the patterns they'd seen in the legacy's databases. The message they broadcast was clear and precise. "Children of Earth, you have awakened the Sentinel. The Galactic Alliance recognizes your claim to this inheritance. Prepare for evaluation." Within hours, more ships arrived. Representatives from 12 different species, each more exotic than the last, formed a delegation to meet with Earth's leaders. Elena found herself in the newly constructed diplomatic center, facing beings that seemed to have stepped out of science fiction. The Alliance's chief ambassador, a crystalline entity that communicated through pulses of light, addressed the assembled human leaders. "Your discovery of the Sentinel was predicted, though you have accessed its systems far sooner than our models suggested possible. This speaks to your species' innovative potential." Another delegate, a being of flowing liquid metal, added, "However, you cannot be permitted to fully activate such a powerful weapon without proving your civilization's readiness. The Sentinel was created to combat threats that nearly destroyed all spacefaring life. Its power must be respected." Elena stepped forward. "With all due respect, the legacy, what you call the Sentinel, has already begun integrating with our technology. It's not just a weapon, it's a teacher. It's showing us how to think about physics and engineering in entirely new ways." The crystalline ambassador's light pulses flickered with what seemed like surprise. "Impossible. The Sentinel systems are locked to recognize only the genetic and technological signatures of its creators. That's just it, Alina explained, bringing up holographic displays of their research. We didn't hack or force our way in. The legacy recognized us. Whatever civilization built it, they were human. We're their descendants. The revelation sent shockwaves through the alien delegation. The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't just another emerging spacefaring species. They were the heirs to one of the most advanced civilizations known to the Alliance. But this is just the beginning, Alina continued. The legacy has shown us possibilities we never imagined. And now that we know the principles behind its quantum bubble technology, we can begin adapting it for other uses. Imagine ships that can create safe harbors in space by locally rewriting physics. Imagine medical technology that could heal by adjusting the fundamental forces within a patient's body. The Alliance's chief scientist, a being of pure energy contained within a specialized field, pulsed with interest. You propose to change the very nature of technological advancement, not just to build upon what exists, but to reimagine what is possible. Exactly, Chen confirmed. The legacy isn't just a weapon or a ship, it's a proof of concept. It proves that the path forward isn't just about making better versions of what we have. Sometimes we need to step back and ask if we're asking the right questions in the first place. A new alert drew everyone's attention. Long-range sensors had detected movement. The swarm was gathering again, but this time they were behaving differently. Instead of attacking, they were sending signals, attempting to communicate. They want to understand, Alina explained, studying the data. Just like you, they've encountered something that doesn't fit their model of the universe. And just like you, they have a choice: adapt or be left behind. The Alliance Council convened in private for hours before reaching their decision. When they emerged, their proclamation changed the course of galactic history. Earth would become the center for a new joint research initiative. The legacy's technology would be studied not just by humans, but by scientists from every species, working together to explore the possibilities it represented. As Alina walked through the legacy's corridors later that day, she felt the ship's systems humming with new energy. The neural interface shared glimpses of possible futures, humanity spreading across the stars not as conquerors or mere students, but as innovators, dreamers, teachers. They still don't quite understand, do they? Chen asked, joining her on the observation deck. Alina watched as ships from a dozen species took up formation around the legacy, preparing for the first joint training exercise. No, but that's okay. They don't need to understand everything yet. They just need to be willing to imagine something new. The legacy's systems pulsed with agreement, its hybrid technology continuing to evolve and adapt. In the depths of space, the swarm was changing too, their encounters with human unpredictability forcing them to develop in new ways. The galaxy was entering a new age, one where the boundaries between possible and impossible grew increasingly fluid. And at the heart of it all was humanity's greatest gift, the ability to look at the established rules, smile, and ask, what if we tried something different? As the legacy prepared for its next mission, Alina felt a deep certainty. They hadn't just changed the future of warfare or technology. They'd changed the future itself, opening doors that no one had even known existed. And somewhere, she liked to think, their ancient ancestors were smiling, knowing their legacy had found its way into the right hands after all. The legacy's systems came alive around them, ancient and modern technology singing in harmony. As the crew took their stations, Alina felt the ship's consciousness mesh with her own through the neural interface. In that moment, she understood why the Alliance's approaches have failed. They tried to fight the swarm with pure logic and technological might, but the legacy was designed to fight them with something else: human intuition combined with machine precision. As they broke orbit and prepared for their first faster-than-light jump, Alina sent a final message to the Alliance Council. Watch carefully. You're about to learn why the ancient humans chose to leave this ship for us specifically. Sometimes the best way to fight monsters isn't with bigger weapons, it's with wilder ideas. The Legacy vanished into subspace, leaving behind a stunned Alliance Council and racing toward humanity's first true test in interstellar warfare. In the ship's data cores, combat algorithms evolved and mutated, combining ancient wisdom with modern innovation in ways the original designers could never have imagined. They had 3 days to prepare for battle, and Elena intended to use every second of them to prove that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology, but their ability to think outside everyone else's boxes. The Legacy dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Alpha Centauri system, its hybrid sensors immediately detecting the approaching void swarm. Through the neural interface, Elena felt her stomach tighten. The enemy looked like a living darkness, a writhing mass of quantum instabilities that consumed light itself. Multiple contacts, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from the tactical station. The swarm is operating as a unified entity. Their attack patterns they're not patterns at all. It's pure chaos. Elena smiled grimly. Exactly. That's why conventional defenses fail. You can't predict chaos with logic. She felt the Legacy's systems resonating with her thoughts. But you can dance with it. The first wave of the swarm accelerated toward them, breaking into smaller units that twisted space itself around them. Standard shields would have been useless against such attacks, but the Legacy wasn't using standard shields. Initiating Defense Protocol Alpha, Chen announced. Quantum entanglement grid active. Instead of trying to block the swarm's attacks, the Legacy's defensive systems began to mirror them. Each twist in space was met with a counter-twist. Each quantum phase shift was matched and reversed. The ship wasn't just defending, it was learning. They're adapting, Rodriguez warned, changing their attack vectors faster than our predictive algorithms can process. Good, Elena replied. Disengage the predictive systems. Switch to intuitive response mode. The crew had trained for this, but it was still disorienting. Through their neural links, they stopped trying to think through their responses and started feeling them instead. The Legacy's hybrid systems translated human instinct into defensive actions faster than conscious thought could manage. The swarm's first attack broke against their defenses like waves against a cliff. But Elena knew they couldn't win by defending alone. Time to show them something they've never seen before. Initiate Protocol Omega. Deep within the Legacy's systems, ancient Martian technology merged with cutting-edge quantum computing. The ship began to generate its own micro-universe, a bubble of space-time that operated under different rules than the surrounding cosmos. Ma'am, Rodriguez's voice was tense. The swarm they're retreating from the quantum bubble. They seem confused. They should be, Chen explained, her hands dancing across the control interfaces. We're not fighting in normal space anymore. We're fighting in a realm where human imagination sets the rules. The Legacy pursued the retreating swarm elements, its quantum bubble expanding. Inside this altered space, the laws of physics became more suggestion than rule. The ship moved in ways that should have been impossible, its weapons firing strings of probability instead of energy. Through the neural interface, Elena felt the swarm's confusion turn to something like fear. These entities had evolved to exploit the fundamental laws of physics, but now they faced an enemy that could locally rewrite those laws. They're trying to communicate, the communications officer reported with surprise. They're asking what we are. Elena broadcast on all frequencies. We are humanity. We are the descendants of those you fought before, but we are not them. We don't just use technology, we reimagine it. We don't just fight chaos, we embrace it and make it our own. The swarm launched a desperate, massive attack, all of its units striking simultaneously. But the Legacy was ready. As the crew's collective consciousness guided the ship, it didn't just dodge the attack. The battle space lit up with impossible energies as the swarm found itself trapped in its own chaotic patterns, amplified and reflected by the Legacy's quantum bubble. Entity after entity collapsed in on itself, their own chaos becoming their undoing. The remaining swarm units are pulling back, Rodriguez reported. They're running away. Elena felt it through the neural link, not just victory, but understanding. The swarm had encountered something it couldn't adapt to because it couldn't comprehend it. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't the Legacy's advanced technology. It was their ability to think in ways that defied conventional logic. As the last swarm units vanished into deep space, the quantum bubble collapsed, returning them to normal spacetime. The Legacy hung victorious above Alpha Centauri, its hybrid systems humming with newly acquired knowledge. Message coming in from the Alliance fleet. Communications announced. They're asking how we did it. Elena leaned back in her neural interface chair, feeling the Legacy's systems settling into new configurations based on what they'd learned during the battle. Tell them we'll be happy to explain. But first, they need to understand something. Technology isn't just about advancement. It's about imagination. And humanity. We got imagination to spare. The ship's sensors detected the approach of Alliance vessels, no doubt coming to investigate their impossible victory. But Elena was already thinking ahead. The swarm would return, probably with new adaptations. But that was fine. Humanity would be ready with new impossibilities. Begin compiling battle data, she ordered. And start running simulations on that quantum bubble technology. I've got some ideas about how we can make it even more interesting next time. The Legacy's systems pulsed with agreement, ancient and modern technology, working in perfect harmony with human creativity. They hadn't just won a battle. They'd changed the rules of warfare itself. And somewhere in the depths of space, the retreating swarm entities were learning a lesson that the Alliance was about to learn as well. Never underestimate a species that treats physics like a suggestion rather than a law. The Galactic Alliance's Grand Chamber had never been so quiet. Elena stood before the assembled representatives of 1,000 worlds, the holographic display behind her showing the battle data from the Legacy's encounter with the Void Swarm. Even after a week of analysis, many species still struggled to comprehend what they had witnessed. Admiral Zix's crystalline form shimmered with subdued patterns as he addressed the chamber. In all our recorded history, no civilization has ever driven the swarm to retreat. At best, we have held them at bay, sacrificing entire systems to buy time. Yet humanity, in their first encounter, did not merely survive. They forced the swarm to flee. The liquid metal being that had previously dismissed their efforts flowed forward. Our analysis suggests that the Legacy's quantum bubble technology violates 12 fundamental laws of physics. It should be impossible. That's where you're wrong, Elena responded, bringing up new displays. It doesn't violate the laws of physics. It proves that your understanding of those laws is incomplete. The ancient humans who built the Legacy understood something that we're only beginning to rediscover. Reality is more flexible than we imagine. Chen stepped forward, adding to the presentation. The Legacy wasn't just designed to fight the swarm. It was designed to evolve, to learn, to imagine new possibilities. But it needed human operators because we think differently. We don't just see patterns. We see the spaces between them, the possibilities that others dismiss as impossible. The chamber erupted in discussion as species debated among themselves. A representative of the silicon-based Lithosians raised their crystalline appendage. You speak of imagination and possibility, but the swarm operates on pure mathematical principles. How can imagination defeat mathematics? Elena smiled. Mathematics isn't just about rules. It's about understanding patterns and then finding new ways to interpret them. The swarm's strength was its chaos, its unpredictability. We didn't try to impose order on that chaos. We embraced it, redirected it, danced with it. We turned their greatest weapon into our greatest tool. The displays shifted to show the Legacy's new configurations, evolved from the battle experience. The ship had changed, grown. It wasn't just a combination of ancient and modern technology anymore. It was something entirely new, born from the marriage of human creativity and alien wisdom. But as the diplomatic discussions continued, Alina's team made another discovery in the Legacy's databanks. The ancient enemy that the ship had been built to fight, it hadn't been defeated. It had gone dormant, hibernating in the spaces between galaxies. And now, after millennia of silence, long-range sensors were detecting signs of movement in the void. The human race had not only inherited an ancient legacy of power, they'd inherited an ancient war, and their innovative approach to integrating old and new technology might be the key to finally ending it. The Galactic Alliance's emergency session erupted into chaos as the latest sensor data streamed in. Alina watched from humanity's newly appointed observation post as the massive holographic display showed another solar system going dark. The Void Swarm, as they now called it, had devoured its third populated system in as many weeks. The defensive lines cannot hold, announced Admiral Zix, his crystalline form pulsing with distress patterns. The swarm adapts to every weapon's configuration we deploy. Our most advanced shielding might as well be tissue paper against their quantum phase attacks. Alina exchanged glances with Lieutenant Colonel Chen. In the 3 months since first contact, they'd made extraordinary progress understanding the legacy systems. But every time they tried to share their insights, the Alliance's military command dismissed them as primitive newcomers. The Legacy's defensive systems were specifically designed to combat the swarm, Alina said, stepping forward. We've not only restored them, but improved upon them by integrating modern quantum technology. We can help. Admiral Zix's crystalline surface rippled with what Alina had learned to recognize as dismissive amusement. Dr. Santos, while we appreciate Earth's enthusiasm, this is not a simulation or training exercise. The swarm destroys entire civilizations. We cannot risk our defense on untested hybrid technology. Untested. Chen stepped forward, her voice sharp. We've run over 10,000 combat simulations. The Legacy's adaptive shields don't just block the swarm's attacks. They learn from them. Each hit makes them stronger. The liquid metal being that served as the Alliance's chief of military technology flowed forward. Your simulations are based on limited data. You cannot possibly understand the full extent of the swarm's capabilities. Some of our member species have been fighting them for millennia. Fighting and losing, Alina pointed out. You're trying to defeat them with pure technological superiority, but that's not how the Legacy was designed to work. It's about adaptation, about thinking differently about space and time themselves. The debate might have continued, but a priority alert cut through all channels. The swarm had changed course. They were heading directly for the Centauri colonies, humanity's first extrasolar settlements. How long? Alina demanded. At current velocity, they will reach the Centauri system in 72 hours, the Alliance's tactical AI reported. Based on previous encounters, projected survival probability for the colonies is less than 2%. Alina straightened her back. The Legacy can be there in 60 hours. Let us prove what it can do. Out of the question, Admiral Zix declared. The Sentinel is too valuable to risk in actual combat. If the swarm were to capture its technology. It's not your decision, Chen interrupted. The Legacy recognized us as the descendants of its creators. Under Alliance law, that makes it Earth property. We don't need your permission to defend our colonies. The chamber erupted again, but Alina was already moving. The Legacy had been relocated to a special dock in Earth orbit, its systems fully integrated with a crew of specially trained humans and AIs. They had hoped to demonstrate its capabilities under controlled conditions, but the swarm had forced their hand. As Alina and Chen rushed to the orbital shuttle, the Alliance Council's arguments faded behind them. They had 72 hours to prepare for humanity's first real space battle, against an enemy that had nearly destroyed their ancestors. The Legacy hung in its orbital dock like a predator waiting to be unleashed. Its hull shimmered with the combined power of ancient metamaterials and modern quantum field generators. The ship had evolved far beyond its original design, becoming something entirely new, just like the human race itself. They think we're being reckless, Chen commented as they boarded, "That we don't understand what we're facing." Elena smiled grimly as she took her place in the neural interface chair they'd adapted from the original control systems. "No, they don't understand what they're facing. Our ancestors didn't just build this ship to fight the swarm. They built it to end them. And they built it to work with humans specifically because we think differently."